Well, hello everybody. Welcome to P.B.M. Money. Today I want to talk about the 7 ways to bypass probate. Now, I came up with this topic because I have been dealing with trying to figure out a way to pass assets on to my kids without them having to go through probate since I am not married. And I've come up with 7 of them. A couple of them are similar, but I broke them out and kept them separate for a purpose. Now, the first of the 7 ways to bypass probate, and by the way, I'm talking about real estate and cash. And I guess you could do the same with insurance policies. But the first one is to incorporate. Now, the way you do this is with the subchapter S, an LLC, or a regular corporation. And you take your assets, your real estate, and you deed them to the corporation. The corporation then becomes the owner of the properties. So that when you pass away, the corporation is taken over by your heir. No probate. Corporations live forever. They don't die. The second one is a living trust. A living trust has always interested me because it has some very unique things. By the way, trusts and corporations and all of that are ownership methods devised by attorneys for attorneys so that they can bypass probate. So, and by the way, if you go to most attorneys and ask them to set up a living trust for you, they won't do it. And I had an attorney tell me specifically why he wouldn't do it. And when I said why, he said because a lot of my friends make their living on probate, and I'm going to take away their livelihood if I do that. So I'm not going to do that. So the attorney's friends are more important than their fiduciary duty to you as a customer. Yeah. But anyway, living trust. Again, you deed the products into the trust, and the trust fund, a living trust, is still owned by you, still controlled by you, and can still be changed by you. Now, the downside to a living trust, if you put your assets into it, is this. If for any reason something happens, in this state it's 7 years. If anything happens to you in the first 7 years, the state can break that trust and take everything that's in there. So it does not protect them for the first 7 years. Once you're past the 7 years, the state can't get in there. Corporations can't get in there. Nobody can break that trust after 7 years. So the risk is the first 7 years in this state. I don't know what it is in other states. But that's the downside. The upside is no probate. I would be the owner, my son would be the beneficiary, and when I die, he becomes the owner. Another way is joint tenancy. Now this is what protects married couples. If one spouse dies, the property does not go through probate, it just automatically goes to the other owner, joint tenants. So an option for me would be to put my son's name on all the deeds as joint tenant. Now, again, it avoids probate, and that's the goal. The downside is this. Well, there's a couple. First off, if he becomes part owner on my properties, he now has to declare those anytime he goes to get a bank loan. He also has to pay any taxes on them. Now we could get around the taxes by me just paying all the taxes on them, but still showing them on his balance sheet and having it become part of his income to debt ratio is a downside to joint tenancy, but it does avoid probate. And here's one that was very similar to the last one, and the one before was just a regular trust. Now, a regular trust is a permanent thing. Can't change it, can't fix it. It's there. Much more secure than a living trust for sure, but also much more difficult to wield and use. And normally in the trust, if you deed your stuff into that, you lose control over it. The trust now controls it. You don't control the trust controls you. Again, it does avoid probate, but it does have some downsides. And here's one, I'm not positive of the amount, but it's called gifting. It used to be, when I was in the business 30 years ago, you could gift up to $10,000 per year per child. And rich people do this all the time. They just, each December, they write a check for $10,000 to each kid and put it into their savings account. If they start that soon enough and early enough, by the time they get to be adults, and they've transferred a lot of wealth to their kids. And it's perfectly legal. There are tax implications for the receivers, not the givers, but for the receivers. But again, the money that you gift, or the properties that you gift with up to $10,000 in equity, is theirs. It bypasses probate and becomes theirs the year you give it to them. Now, another way to bypass probate would be insurance policies. What do I mean? Well, let's say that I put in my life insurance policy in my name, and I make my son the beneficiary. When I die, whatever the insurance amount of money is goes directly to him. It is not taxable. That's one of the benefits of insurance policies and loan proceeds. They're not taxable. That is a non-taxable event, again, created by attorneys for attorneys to save money. You may as well use it. So, one viable alternative would be to buy as much insurance as you possibly can, put it in their name, and then that way the money bypasses probate. Now, there are many types of insurances that you can get whole life, term, single pay, all kinds of insurance, and all of the proceeds bypass probate, and they are not taxable. The only downside to that is that you got to make the payments and the premiums, and you have to be able to qualify for the insurance. I don't qualify, but if I did, I would have done this. And I'll tell you another thing that I wanted to do, but because I can't get the insurance, is for each property that I own. Let's say each property is worth $100,000. I would have gotten a $100,000 term insurance policy for each house and had the property make the payments. That way, when I die, he would get the house plus $100,000 to pay it off, and it all avoids probate and taxes. That's what I would have liked to have done, and I strongly recommend you do that if you qualify, and the younger you are, the better it is. The last one I want to talk about, the 7 ways to avoid probate, is a partnership. Now, let's say, as an example, my son and I form a real estate partnership. And in the partnership agreement, if one of us dies, it goes to the other person. There is no probate because, again, it's an ownership vehicle. Now, the downside to the partnership would be this. We would both have to pay taxes on both of our properties, and have to show each of our properties on our balance sheet and pay taxes on that until one of us died. That is, in my opinion, when you're talking about real estate and cash, that is a poor way to do it. It still works, but I feel like the downside to a partnership is way, way costlier than just going through probate and paying the taxes on it. Well, those are the 7 ways to avoid probate. I'm sure there's other ones that I don't know about, but these are the 7 that I have looked at, and I am going to do 1 or 2 of these in combination. I'm in the process right now of getting that done, but I want to go over these one more time. The first way to avoid probate would be some type of incorporation, LLC, corporate, subchapter S, some form of corporate ownership. A living trust, joint tenancy, a regular trust, gifting, insurance proceeds, and partnerships. That's all I wanted to talk about. You guys have a great day, a great week, and happy investing.